Hey y'all, my name is Lois Power and I wanted to hop on and share some things that I've learned, and I thought they might be helpful to you too. I've learned a lot about healthy eating over the last 7+ years, and I want to share these things with you because I know how frustrating it can be when there's so much confusing information out there. So let's just jump in and talk a little bit about a healthy diet. So you probably already know that there are 3 types of foods, or foods are made up of 3 things: fats, protein, and carbs. And while both protein and carbs have 4 calories per gram, fat actually has 9 calories per gram. Okay, so our food is made up of those 3 basic components. You've probably heard a lot about food composition and how to create a diet with certain ratios of protein versus carbs versus fats and so forth. But I really want to focus in a little bit on carbs because this seems to be the macronutrient that people have the most confusion around. So I want to talk about, first of all, why do carbs matter? Well, the reason that carbs matter and understanding carbs in our diet is because your body has 2 main things that it burns for energy. It can burn fat and it can burn glucose. And glucose is just the form in which carbs and sugars are stored in your body so that they can be burned for energy. So those are really the 2 ways. It's either fat or carbs that you're burning for energy. So the reason that carbs matter is because they are an important macronutrient in your body to give you energy, to give you nutrition. But carbs can also be created in a lab. Okay, so it's very difficult, I guess, to create beef in a lab, although yes, people have figured out a way to mimic fake beef, right? But carbs can pretty easily be created in a lab. So this is why it matters. There are carbs that are natural carbs that your body knows what to do with. And in nature, carbs that have more sugar content will always be found with more fiber. So that whenever those carbs go into your body, for example, let's say you eat a raspberry. Raspberries are sweet. They're amazing, and they're an amazing food. But raspberries also have a lot of natural fiber. So even though it is a sugar, carbs have sugar, raspberries have sugar. When they go into your body, they have so much fiber that slows down the insulin spike that your body gets whenever you have sugar into your body. The fiber slows that down in an amazing way. And you'll find that in nature. You'll find that there's a balance when you eat foods that come from nature, where if they have a lot of sugar, they also typically have a lot of carbs. The good ones do anyway. So if we want to talk about healthy versus non-healthy carbs, what I will tell you is I don't believe there's any bad food that comes from nature. But what I will tell you, that there's a very different effect on the body from eating raspberries compared to eating, let's say, for example, ice cream. There's a very different impact on the body. Where's ice cream grown, right? Okay, what do you plant? What seed do you plant in the ground to get ice cream? You understand what I'm saying? But yet, raspberries, we know where raspberries are grown and how we can grow raspberries. So there's a very, very big difference. So there's healthy carbs, those that are what we call whole foods. This is really important for you to understand. A whole food is a food that has 1 ingredient, okay? So what are whole foods? Well, beef, fish, chicken, turkey. Those are things that are whole foods. They have 1 ingredient. What are the ingredients in chicken? It's just chicken. Okay, let's talk about raspberries, blueberries, strawberries, peaches, watermelon. What are the ingredients in watermelon? It's 1 ingredient. It's just watermelon. Okay, what about pecans? What are the ingredients in pecans? It's 1 ingredient, pecans. So some people, you might have heard some people say that there are foods that grow in the ground or had a face, okay? That's just a way of saying These are foods that are not manipulated to be, well, there are foods that are manipulated to be grown. I should take that back, because there are times that they put pesticides and hormones and growth factor on tomatoes, for example. So I guess that's not exactly accurate, but the point I'm trying to make is a food that's grown in the ground, or a food that was what I call God-made foods, like meats, vegetables, fruits, nuts, seeds, those type of things, those are whole foods. Okay, so you want to try to always eat carbs that come from whole foods. As I said earlier, eating raspberries is very different than eating ice cream. If you did nothing more than you only ate foods that came from the earth, or came from animals, or things that only had one ingredient, you would do yourself such great things. Do for yourself such great things, because those are the foods that your body knows how to deal with. Also, back to carbs. Let's talk about sneaky carbs. So, for example, if you go to eat a bar, let's say we're going to eat a bar. And a bar, it says on the back of the bar that bar has 30 carbohydrates, okay? Then you look right under it and it says it has 2 grams of fiber. Guess what? That means that 28 grams of those carbohydrates are not offset with fiber. That is not a good ratio. That food is going to spike your insulin level, raise your blood sugar. You do not want that. Our blood sugar balance is a very intricate balance in our body that keeps inflammation down, gives us energy, helps our body become lean and efficient, right? So sneaky carbs, or the type of carbs that are in there that do not have any fiber to offset the actual carb count. Now, here's what most people don't know, and I want you to know this, and I want you to really tune into what I'm about to say. Marketing has now, these companies have figured out the marketing to offset people's knowledge of how carbs work. So for example, this is what I'm talking about. Back to our example about the bar. You may see a bar that has 30 carbs and 2 grams of fiber, but then underneath it, it might say sugar alcohols or added fiber or things that also will offset, so that you look on the front of it and it says it only has 4 net carbs. They have learned how to, for lack of a better term, manipulate the consumer into believing that food has 4 carbs. That food doesn't have 4 carbs. That food has 30 carbs, not 4. It has 30. So you have to just be really careful. I'll give you another example. I was talking to a friend and she had chosen a snack to take to work with her, and it was almonds, but it was covered in, I believe it was like a lemon covered almond treat or snack. And guess what? When you look on the back of it, you have the carb count, you have the fiber count, and then you have added sugar. You want that to be 0. You want it to say 0 added sugar. That's the goal, is that the foods that you're eating, they have not added sugar into those, okay? So this is the best way for me to explain this. If you're looking at the total amount of carbs that you're taking in a day in relation to the protein and fat that you're eating, if you're working on that and you're trying to keep that carb count low in relation to the fat and protein that you're taking in, here's the best way to do that. Look at the total number of carbs. If it is a whole food, and I explained to you earlier what a whole food is, then you can deduct out the fiber from that amount of carbs, okay? So let's say you get to the end of the day and you've taken in 40 carbohydrates, but 30 of those carbohydrates came from whole food sources like pecans or avocado or raspberries and that, or broccoli. You can remove, in your mind, you can remove those carbs that come from fiber from whole foods. But you cannot remove the fiber that is listed in foods that are created and boxed, okay? What we call processed foods. So in order to keep this straight, let me reiterate this one more time. If it comes from a whole food, raspberries, fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, if it comes from whole foods, you can take out the fiber from your daily carb count, okay? But if it comes from something that has a label that was created in a lab, you do not remove the carbs or the fiber for your carb count. So if you're looking at a box and it says it's 4 net carbs, but when you turn around and you look at the back and it says 30 carbs, you have to count that as 30 carbs. Okay? Because that is not a whole food. Your body doesn't know what to do with all that, and they've added things in there to trick you into believing that your net carbs are lower. But you can't take net carbs off of a food that they have manipulated and put in a box and put on a shelf. But, again, to review, but if it's an avocado and it has 12 carbs but 10 come from fiber, you can count that as 2 carbs. Because those 10 from natural fiber, because it's a whole food, do not count in your daily carb count. I hope that that helps you. I think one of the reasons that people really struggle with weight loss is they're taking in too many carbs because they just simply they don't know. They don't know about all the manipulative things that happen in marketing and in the way that they package foods and feed those to us. And so we think we're doing a good job if we look at something and it says, oh, the carb count's low. But the reality is you need to try to eat whole foods as often as you can. Foods that only have one ingredient. You need carbs. Carbs are not the enemy. It's okay for you to have raspberries and peaches and watermelon, any kind of berries. It's okay for you to have that. And it's okay for you to have green leafy vegetables. Now, I would say don't eat starches. That's a good idea for you to not eat any starches. And here's the last thing I'm going to talk about. And you can have meats, of course. But here's the last thing that I'm going to talk about, okay? And it's this. Whenever you are trying to figure out what it is that you are going to eat, if you eat sugary, carby, starchy foods, your body's going to crave more. But if you're eating fruits and vegetables and meats and nuts and seeds, your body is not going to crave carbohydrates and sugar, okay? So important. So many of us struggle and we hit these plateaus and we can't lose weight. And we're like, what's wrong with me? I can't lose weight. And yes, I readily admit, because I've been going through it, that hormone fluctuations and things like that can make weight loss a little bit more difficult. But you can lose weight if you eat whole foods and you exercise and do some strength training. You absolutely can. Even my father, 87 years old, was on our Singular program for 30 days and lost 27 pounds, and he's 87 years old. You don't get too old to be able to lose weight, but you do have to eat. You have to get some movement in, okay? Drink water, get sleep. Those are all things that are important. So I hope this helped you to do a little bit of talking about sneaky carbs, why carbs matter, what are the best carbs for you to eat, how much you can eat, and how fiber plays a really important part. They suggest that women get 25 grams of fiber a day and men 36 to 38, but that fiber needs to come from whole food sources. And when you're taking in carbs that are whole food sources that have a great amount of fiber, it's going to help you to keep your blood sugar balanced. You're going to be satiated. You're going to feel good. You're going to have energy, and it's going to go well with you. So I hope this was helpful. If you have other questions, drop them in the comments below, and we'll take a look. Y'all have a great rest of your day.